Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we'll explore the top 8 countries that support Bhutan against China in 2025. Bhutan, a small landlocked country in the Himalayas, has long had a diplomatic relationship with China marked by territorial disputes, particularly over the Doklam region. But why do some nations stand by Bhutan in its struggle against China's increasing territorial claims? From strategic alliances to shared geopolitical interests, these countries have chosen to back Bhutan. Like, subscribe, and watch till the end to discover the reasons why these nations have taken sides with Bhutan and the factors influencing their decisions. Let's dive into the intricate geopolitics surrounding Bhutan's relationship with China. Number 8. India. India's support for Bhutan against China is deeply rooted in shared strategic interests and historical ties. India has had a long-standing special relationship with Bhutan, dating back to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship signed in 1949. This treaty, revised in 2007, ensures that Bhutan's foreign policy remains aligned with India, especially when it comes to dealing with China. In 2025, India sees Bhutan as a key strategic ally in the face of China's growing assertiveness in the region, particularly in the Himalayan border disputes. The Doklam standoff in 2017 was a major flashpoint between China and India, with Bhutan being directly involved due to its claim over the region. India's military intervention in Bhutan's defense of Doklam was a clear demonstration of its commitment to protecting Bhutan's sovereignty. Emotionally, India's support for Bhutan is driven by its historical role as Bhutan's protector. India views Bhutan's security as part of its own regional stability and is committed to ensuring that China does not gain a foothold in the region. India's economic and military assistance to Bhutan, including training for Bhutan's armed forces and economic aid, has been crucial in strengthening their alliance. India's fears over China's influence in Bhutan and the potential encirclement of India's borders by Chinese military presence make this support non-negotiable. India's geopolitical strategy hinges on maintaining Bhutan as a buffer state against China's expansion. Number 7. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's support for Bhutan against China is based on a combination of geopolitical alliances, historical ties, and regional stability concerns. Although Sri Lanka has developed a close relationship with China in recent years, particularly through China's Belt and Road Initiative, it also values its strong ties with India, which is Bhutan's main ally. In 2025, Sri Lanka's support for Bhutan is largely driven by shared concerns over China's growing influence in South Asia and the Indian Ocean region. Sri Lanka understands the geopolitical importance of Bhutan's location in the Himalayas and the potential impact of Chinese territorial expansion on regional security. The Doklam conflict of 2017 heightened Sri Lanka's awareness of the India-China rivalry, and it has chosen to back Bhutan's sovereignty as a matter of regional solidarity. Sri Lanka, while maintaining its economic partnership with China, recognizes the need for balanced relations with India to ensure its own strategic security. Sri Lanka sees India as a regional leader and understands the importance of maintaining stability in the Himalayas, especially given its own concerns over Chinese naval presence in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka's support for Bhutan is also a reflection of its desire to maintain a neutral stance between China and India, while ensuring that the regional balance of power is not upset by Chinese expansionism. Emotionally, Sri Lanka's support for Bhutan is rooted in a shared desire to avoid external dominance and ensure regional sovereignty. Number 6. Maldives. The Maldives' support for Bhutan against China is largely driven by geopolitical considerations and strategic partnerships. Although the Maldives has seen increasing Chinese influence in recent years through economic investments and infrastructure projects, it continues to value its relationship with India, a key regional player and Bhutan's historical ally. In 2025, the Maldives recognizes the importance of regional security in the Indian Ocean and South Asia, and backs Bhutan's territorial integrity to counter Chinese expansion. The Maldives shares India's concerns over China's growing presence in the Indian Ocean and Southeast Asia, and views Bhutan's struggle with China over the Doklam region as part of a larger struggle for regional stability. Emotionally, the Maldives supports Bhutan because of the shared values of sovereignty and territorial integrity, especially given the Maldives' own vulnerability to foreign influence. As China's strategic interests in the Indian Ocean grow, the Maldives has increasingly looked to India and Bhutan as part of a regional counterbalance. The Maldives also fears the military and economic influence China could wield in South Asia if Bhutan's sovereignty were to be compromised by Chinese territorial ambitions. In 2025, the Maldives' support for Bhutan reflects its desire to maintain a strong relationship with India while balancing its own economic interests with China. The Maldives sees China's expansion as a threat to regional autonomy and freedom of navigation in the Indian Ocean, making Bhutan's struggle a matter of shared concern. Number 5. South Korea. South Korea's support for Bhutan against China is grounded in shared values, geopolitical strategy, and security concerns. While South Korea has traditionally focused its foreign policy on North Korea and the U.S.-South Korea alliance, it has increasingly expressed support for regional stability in Asia, which includes upholding the sovereignty of smaller nations like Bhutan in the face of Chinese aggression. In 2025, South Korea's support for Bhutan stems from its alignment with democratic principles and regional security interests. South Korea views Bhutan as a symbol of independence in a region that is heavily influenced by both China and India. As China's influence in East Asia grows, South Korea is becoming more concerned about China's expansionism and the potential security threats it poses. Emotionally, South Korea sees Bhutan's territorial disputes with China as an extension of China's broader territorial ambitions, which could potentially affect South Korea's security and sovereignty in the future. South Korea also values its relationship with India and perceives Bhutan as an important partner in balancing Chinese influence in Asia. South Korea's support for Bhutan against China reflects its desire to maintain a free and stable Asia that is not dominated by China. South Korea views the Doklam standoff as a reminder of the dangers posed by China's growing regional power, and its support for Bhutan is a signal of its commitment to regional security. Number 4. Vietnam. Vietnam's support for Bhutan in the context of its dispute with China is shaped by shared experiences of Chinese territorial expansion and the defense of sovereignty. Vietnam has long struggled with China's territorial claims in the South China Sea and sees Bhutan's resistance to China's growing influence as part of a larger regional struggle. In 2025, Vietnam backs Bhutan as part of its broader commitment to counter China's militarization of the South China Sea and its expansionist policies. Like Bhutan, Vietnam has faced significant challenges with China's territorial aggression and shares Bhutan's commitment to sovereignty and territorial integrity. Emotionally, Vietnam views Bhutan's opposition to China as a symbol of resistance against Chinese imperialism in Asia. Vietnam's historical experience with Chinese control and occupation has made it particularly sensitive to China's growing regional dominance. Vietnam perceives Bhutan's territorial struggle as part of a broader narrative of smaller nations defending themselves against the bullying tactics of larger powers. Vietnam's support for Bhutan is also based on a desire to strengthen regional solidarity among countries that oppose Chinese expansion. As China's economic and military power continues to grow, Vietnam sees it as critical to form alliances with countries like Bhutan that share a commitment to regional security and sovereignty. Number 3. Singapore. Singapore's support for Bhutan is primarily driven by geopolitical considerations, regional stability, and a shared commitment to international law. Singapore, as a global trading hub in Southeast Asia, has always placed a premium on upholding sovereignty and territorial integrity in the face of growing Chinese influence. In 2025, Singapore's backing of Bhutan reflects its broader strategic goal of maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific that is not dominated by any single power, especially China. Singapore's diplomatic stance supports the preservation of Bhutan's sovereignty as part of Asia's geopolitical balance. Emotionally, Singapore supports Bhutan because both nations are small countries facing challenges from larger, more powerful neighbors. Singapore views Bhutan's resistance to China's territorial claims as a fight for sovereignty and self-determination, values Singapore holds dear. Singapore also views China's regional ambitions as a threat to regional stability and has increasingly aligned itself with India and other regional powers that oppose Chinese territorial expansion. Singapore's backing of Bhutan in the China-India conflict is part of its effort to maintain a balance of power in Asia and prevent Chinese hegemony in the region. Number 2. Japan. Japan's support for Bhutan against China is rooted in historical tensions and a shared desire to counter Chinese influence in Asia. Japan, like Bhutan, has had a complex relationship with China due to territorial disputes and China's growing military presence in the region. Japan sees Bhutan's struggle with China as part of a broader regional battle for sovereignty and self-determination. In 2025, Japan's support for Bhutan is driven by its commitment to preserving the status quo in East Asia and maintaining regional stability. Japan views Bhutan as a key player in countering Chinese expansion in the Himalayan region and sees its territorial disputes with China as a warning of what could come in the East China Sea and the South China Sea. Emotionally, Japan sees its own territorial disputes with China over the Senkaku Islands as similar to Bhutan's concerns over Doklam. Japan is deeply committed to regional security alliances, and its support for Bhutan is part of its broader strategy to balance China's rise. Japan's military and economic cooperation with India, as well as its stance on the Chinese threat, make it an important supporter of Bhutan in its efforts to protect its territorial sovereignty. Japan's backing of Bhutan reflects a shared belief in defending national borders and regional autonomy against China's expansionist policies. Number 1. UAE. The UAE's support for Bhutan is a reflection of shared economic interests, strategic alliances, and a commitment to regional peace in Asia. The UAE has increasingly developed close ties with India and is concerned about China's growing influence in South Asia. Given Bhutan's close alignment with India, the UAE sees supporting Bhutan as part of its broader strategy to counter Chinese regional dominance. In 2025, the UAE's support for Bhutan against China is influenced by its strategic partnerships with India and the need to maintain regional stability. The UAE recognizes the importance of Bhutan as a buffer state between India and China, and it sees China's territorial claims over Bhutan's land as part of a larger regional struggle for dominance. Emotionally, the UAE supports Bhutan because it shares the values of sovereignty and self-determination, particularly in the face of China's aggressive expansionist policies. As a small country with limited resources, Bhutan's ability to resist China's territorial ambitions is something the UAE views as admirable. The UAE's involvement in supporting Bhutan also aligns with its broader foreign policy objectives, which include strengthening ties with India and balancing China's growing influence in Asia. By supporting Bhutan, the UAE demonstrates its commitment to maintaining regional stability and opposing the expansionist ambitions of China. The support for Bhutan from these countries is driven by shared interests in sovereignty, regional security, and countering China's influence. From territorial integrity to strategic alliances, these countries are committed to helping Bhutan maintain its independence. Like, comment, and subscribe for more insights into global geopolitics. See you next time.